can you talk about, so Terry Chen's the actor, he's so good in this. I assume those aren't his real tattoos.
Those are his real tattoos.
Wait, what?
Those are all his real tattoos.
At what point did you realize those were his real, like he had tattoos like that?
Okay, well now Terry and I we're pals.
Oh,
but
okay.
when we first started, I remember there was a call and we were probably a couple of days from shooting and he's like, Gillian, like, I have a lot of tattoos. I'm like, yeah, no worries, we'll cover them up. He's like, no, I don't think we have the budget to cover these up. And there's really only one scene where we see him, or a couple scenes where we see them in full force, but I just wanted to lean into it. Because Terry he's not lucky at all. He is like a very responsible, really reliable person and very lovely. He's so warm. But he's born in Edmonton, which is a city not far away from Calgary, and he was raised in Calgary, and who lived in Alberta for a long time. And so I did not think it was so impossible that somebody from his background could have that many tattoos in Calgary. So lean in.
Yeah, I think it says a lot, I mean, in my own head about his character too, and his past. So Summer, can you talk about how you developed your character? I mean, everyone in the family is so fascinating because they all like know things but don't say things, and so yeah, can you talk more about how you developed your character?
It was like written to like how I actually act at home, with my attitude and my sassiness. But I don't know, it like fit with me, and I auditioned and I got the part.
You're saying you're a lot like that character?
Yeah.
Do you have to go to Chinese school?
I do.
So that's your actual Cantonese that you're speaking?
Yeah.
Wow. Any like fun like stories of being on the set or your experience?
It got me out of school, but not Chinese school.
Gillian, can you talk about like what about Summer made you want to cast her?
Okay, well, full disclosure, Summer's my cousin.
Oh.
Look, I know the Nepo baby conversation is like done with, but this was a situation where I wrote the role knowing that Summer could do it, but I went through due process and I auditioned in Calgary. But most of the performers were sort of stuck in like Disney Channel land, where it was very it seemed like they all were just overdoing it, and we were getting down to the wire, and I'm like, I know that Summer can do it. So Summer auditioned, and the producers were like, yeah, let's do it. And we, got Summer acting coach for a little bit, and she just really gelled with the team. We all went out for actually Lunar New Year dinner before you had any scenes with them. So that was a nice way to get to know everybody and sort of have all of the cast together with my actual family, with our actual family. And I think that chemistry shows.
I have to admit, I don't know very much about like Asian Canadian filmmaking in Calgary. Is there a big pool of actors? Can you say a little bit more about sort of the infrastructure for filmmaking?
No, there's not a big infrastructure for actors. There's a lot. There's a really passionate filmmaking community in Calgary, and it is a hub for service production. So, Fargo has shot there for a number of seasons, like Brokeback Mountain. Lots and lots of big. The Last of Us was a huge project there. So, the crews are exceptionally trained. We have access to really great equipment and beautiful landscapes, but most of the acting talent leaves. So, Terry, Olivia, Connie, Andrew. All 4 of those performers are originally from Calgary, but they've all gone on to different places within the country, Toronto or Vancouver. And I think that speaks to the talent is there, but it often leaves because it can be hard to retain that above the line creative control.
Yeah, that's a familiar story for San Diego as well. The gravitational pull of New York and LA is strong.
It's strong.
Yeah. I'm sure there's some questions from the audience. Anybody have any questions for Summer or Gillian? Yeah, in the back.
So, yeah, I know you have the scene where he folds, but I was trying to figure out the conflict there, because after he folds, he goes back home and still tries to take the money.
For me, I don't think that a person can change that quickly. I think that we surprise ourselves when we do something that's radical and you're like, wow, I did that. And then you're like, oh right, I still need some money to get out of this. What am I gonna do? I'm not above, okay, there's one last thing and I still won't get caught. I think in my experience, just observing human behavior, that is way more likely than saying, wow, I folded, I'm a changed man. You know what, I'm gonna come clean to my wife right now. She's gonna be, it's gonna be tough, but we're gonna do it. So that was where I wanted to go. I wanted that final confrontation with his wife. I felt like it would come out messy rather than honestly.
Right here.
I was going to ask you about the ending because I wanted to know how far into the writing process you knew that that was going to be the conclusion of the film. It's so interesting to have it end on a more realistic note as opposed to everything just working out with a marriage and family being together.
Honestly, it's been a back and forth. At first I wanted to work out, and then it didn't work out. It was really hard because I think the desire, and when you hear stories that it concludes, there's a but and it feels good. And so something I've struggled with, and in sharing it with audiences, is that it does conclude here, but it's sort of, Lucky's story, he's good today, but possibly he could not be okay tomorrow. That's what I take away from it, that when you're an addict, or you are living with an addict, or you're in love with an addict, you are taking, it's like day by day. That's how I feel. Everything is day by day. And that is a beautiful ending for me, but it's not resolute as like, and he never gambled again. And then the happy real life Lucky on screen being like, and it's been 10 years since I gambled. Like, that to me, anytime I see that on screen, I just want to it just takes me out of it, and it feels so like sentimental and false, even though there's like a beautiful thing as well with that. Like, I saw Hillbilly Elegy, and then there's this thing at the end, and he's like, and my mom has been sober from drugs forever. And I was like, oh my gosh, and you're still like milking your mom? Like, what? It just really bothered me. Anyway, so I hope that answered your question about my taste, but also having a truthful ending that was beautiful, that made sense for the family, and also honored Lucky as like a real person.
Other questions? Yeah, in the back.
What kind of movies and filmmakers inspired you when you were making this movie and writing the story?
Okay, the first influence was definitely After the Storm by Hirokazu Koreeda. I'm a huge fan of his. I always go into it, I'm like, I'm gonna be fine, and then I'm never fine. And then, especially in that film, the lead character, I think you pronounce the name Hiromi Abe, he's like super handsome, super charming, and like pretty despicable in a lot of ways. And so I felt inspired to tell the story because it had already kind of been told before. Stylistically, I was really inspired by the 70s. So I really I was watching a lot of Robert Altman, and I also really like William Friedkin, all of his work from that period of time. And so I felt empowered to use Zooms too when I saw, honestly, the Safdies, when they started using Zooms, I was like, oh shit, now everyone's gonna be using Zooms. And then nobody's kind of went in that direction, so I felt empowered to use that for the film.
When you say 70s album, I was thinking about the Western.
Yeah.
Can you say about that?
No, well, I was thinking about more, at the time I was watching McCabe and Mrs.
Yeah.
Miller in Nashville.
Yeah. Okay, well, there's a hand there.
Could you explain the choice for the music?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm from Calgary. Calgary's what do you say, Western? Yeah. Yes. Can you, yeah, okay. Calgary's like cowboys, oil and gas, cows. That's the superficial, lowest common denominator. And so for me, it just made sense that there would be sort of a rock and roll Western soundtrack. I was honestly really into Nickelback, so this is How You Remind Me. I listened to that a lot, and I was even looking into having a cover of the song, at the end. That didn't happen, obviously, but I just really felt like a fusion. I want to show an Asian Canadian family here. They're second generation, they're born here, they're established here, so they're influenced by the place that they live in. So there has been a loss of culture from their home country or their ethnic country, but they've also embraced certain aspects of where they've landed. And I wanted to show that with the music.
Other questions? Yeah, right here.
I couldn't help but notice that a lot of the characters didn't have good relationships I was wondering if, like, what would your ideal redemption arc for fathers look like, or, like, if any?
I think that a good dad just has to show up. I love Lucky. I know that he's sucks in a lot of ways, and I've had people come up to me after and they're like, I didn't like this movie because that guy sucks, and no sympathy, and he should have been punished way more. And like, fair, that's a totally fair judgment. But for me, I think a redemption arc for a dad is like to show up for your family, and there's still time to do that. And I think acknowledging what happened can be also redemptive. Like, I have a friend who hasn't talked to her dad in probably like 20 years, and I think that her dad, if he just were to reach out and be like, hey, we haven't talked in 20 years, I'm not gonna be around for much longer, I wanna say how much I love you, I think that would go a long way.
Other questions? Yeah.
What was the inspiration behind the love interest for Grace? how did you make that choice?
Well, originally he figured much more prominently. Like, I had this whole love triangle thing where Grace had like some hot Chinese gangster in prison who gets out, and then she's with this like wimpy white guy, but he's like more stable and has a good family, and so then she's kind of pulled between pseudo Lucky and, you know, guy here. That obviously didn't make the cut because, you know, time constraints, but if I can be completely candid, I've just noted, like, I'm biracial. My dad is like Caucasian, my mom is Chinese, and a lot of relationships and friendships that I have in Calgary with Asian women are all often biracial. And so I just thought it was a true way to show, like, sort of another way of having intercultural relationships. And Austin, who's the actor, he's actually a comedian. I just thought I didn't even know what I was looking for, and he came, I'm like, yeah, you're great. And he just seems so sweet and like a little puppy, and I just want to hold him. And that just feels like opposite to what Terry was bringing in the Lucky role, where it's a little bit more lived in, but, you know, he's damaged, whereas Austin doesn't feel like he has baggage.
Other questions? Yeah.
So you said you started out originally about the Grace and the cheating. Were you considering doing more on that? Because it seems like she obviously did not get caught. So I was wondering if you could expand on that or anything like that.
In this draft, no. In what you saw, that was it. And that came from, I thought a lot about this, that often people get away with cheating. Not often, most of the time people get away. And so in the Grace's case, I just wanted to show that everybody's doing it and some of them get away with it. Not everyone's going to be punished in the film. Maybe her punishment will come later, I don't know. I don't think so. But some people do get away by the skin of their teeth.
Time for another question or two? Yeah, here, and then we'll come back here. Yeah.
Hi, thank you for your sharing your movie. It was really neat to watch. How did you go about choosing the income tax as being the hook of what really pulled his addiction out of gambling? Because I noticed you have the setting also be around like Christmas time. It seemed like, but nothing was geared to gamble toward Christmas gifts. Like, there wasn't anything particular that they were struggling to pay, except for what they have their basic bills that she kept asking them about. But like I was mentioning, it seemed like the big hook was the income tax. That how did you go about choosing that to be the most troubling?
For me, it just felt like that was the thing to push it over because he knew he was already late. Like it just felt like a believable thing for him to be like, frick, now I'm like, I just lost money because I thought that I know that I owe this money in taxes. Now I've also lost money to a scam. Okay, I still can get it back. There's a sense of like being on top of it, like this ability that you can be on top of it. But if I can be self-critical, I also do think that I could have pushed the Christmas angle more. But you live and you learn.
Going back to the people not getting their comeuppance, you know, the mother clearly had, fenced watches before she had a contact, and Grace had that second cell phone, so she clearly had done it before. So really, only Lucky was the only one that faced the consequences of his lies. And I'm wondering that choice. It just seemed like Lucky got the short end of the stick. Not that he didn't deserve it, but everyone in that family, I guess except Summer, really could have deserved it because they were lying and cheating and keeping secrets from each other.
Yeah, I think you're totally, no, I think you're right. I think, I think that Olivia's character, Noelle, she does give the watch back at the end, which is some sort of, she can kind of end on a moral high ground. But I did like the idea that she had been doing this before, and she had people who could help her. Because I know that happens. Like, I know, like, even within my own family, like, my dad's wedding ring was stolen from, like, a locker room when he was, like, in it. It was wild. Like, just, these things happen. They happen all the time, and I think it happens casually, and you're not really confronted with the challenge of it. So for her, I wanted her to give it back and confront that. For Grace, I think, I can rationalize how her cheating is not that bad. That's where I could go. But for me as a filmmaker, I think what I'm more interested in with this film is, like, having the film as something as almost like a Rorschach test, where it's like, what do you think? I want to engage with you as an audience, and I want to know what you think, even if you're like, I hate everyone there and I didn't like that film, or, well, that was cool. Like, I want to engage with you and sort of just not tell you everything. I just want to show, like, human behavior as I've seen it, and with an outcome that I'm happy with as a writer, and then talk about it with all of you, see what you think.
I think there was one hand. Somebody still want to ask a question? Yeah, right there. Yeah.
Yeah. So if Lucky sold his red sports car, what kind of car would he get next? Would it be a family car, or would it be like, a sports car?
I don't think he can, huh? I don't think he can afford anything too crazy, but I also don't think that he can resist getting something a little sexy. So, I don't know. I don't know what he would get.
A truck, maybe?
Yeah, maybe a truck to work his ass off. Yeah, and trucks are good to come by in Alberta, let me tell you.
As a last question, so now that the film has been premiered, it's on the circuits, what's the future for it? Is there a chance for other folks in America to see this?
Definitely. So Lucky Star will be available video on demand in the States May 13th, so coming up right away. You can follow us on our social media. My production company is called Kinosum, Kinosum. So we're doing a Canadian theatrical release, so if you have any friends or family in Canada, May, we're doing a bunch of that, and we're hoping to get a few American theatrical one-offs, but if you follow us online, you can keep posted.
Great, thank you so much to both of you for being here to represent the film, and thank you all for being here tonight.
Thank you so much.